Welcome to EDS 2025 here in sunny Wesley Chapel, Florida. It is a beautiful day here, and it's a beautiful day outside, beautiful day inside. And I am here today with my good friend, Yossi Fischler. Welcome.
Thank you. How you doing?
Great, doing great. We're actually now on the second day of the conference. I think everyone's kind of, got comfortable, loosened the tie a little bit. Everyone's having a good time. And we've known each other for a couple of years, but we haven't really interfaced yet. And I think it'll be interesting to have a conversation with you, because where I do a lot of capital campaign work, raise money for buildings, whether it's brand new buildings, renovations, whatever it is. And I go to them, I say to the client, okay, what's your goal? Right? And they say, we need to raise $25 million, or we need to raise $18 million, whatever the number is. And I say to them, okay, well, how did you arrive at that number?
Oh, I love that question.
It's a good question. The follow-up question is very important, yes. So I'll say, how do you arrive at the number? And they'll say, well, the purchase price plus the furnishings plus this plus that, that's how we arrive at the number. So I'll follow up with them and say, is that the full dream? Right, because I want to make sure that you only get to do a capital campaign once in a lifetime, or once in every 20 years. Like, this is not an annual campaign. By definition, you get to do annually.
Right.
Capital campaign, you get one shot at it. You don't want to screw it up, and you want to do it right. So when I ask them what their full dream is, then I sometimes I'll tease out of them more, and it turns into something more. But what you do, and I'd love you to kind of talk about the work that you do, has very strong implications on that number when they come to me. Right, like they should have done some work.
Meaning that, coming to me first or coming to me second.
Yeah, yes.
Very
important.
important.
Come to you first, and then if they've done that job properly, then they can come to me with an informed dollar amount and say, this is what we need to raise. So I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit, who is Yossi, what your background is, and talk about your company, what you do, and then we can dive into a conversation around how to properly do a capital campaign.
Okay, so awesome. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
You got to say that on a podcast.
Yeah, gratitude is everything.
Yeah,
it
right.
starts with gratitude.
So, Yossi Fischler, I went to school for architecture. Then I worked for a developer for 11 years. I was VP of Design and Development. During that time, I bridged the gap between a client and construction, hiring the architects, engineers, coordinating, redlining. And then
what's redlining for? I don't know anything.
If you take drawings and you want to mark them up, that you want to make door swings change, you want wider corridors, things overlap, line of sight issues, circulation, so you redline it to make sure that it's working.
Okay.
And then you give it back to the architect, and the architect corrects it, engineer corrects it, and so on and so forth.
Okay, all right.
Constant situation.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So once I was doing that for this developer, and he gave me a lot of leeway, learned a lot, environmental insurance and so on, I saw a niche that did not exist. Because anyone who's a non-developer doesn't have a person to lean on, doesn't have a counterpart, doesn't have someone that they could look to and say, is this correct? Because they are executive directors, they have other jobs, houses, shoals, schools, any version, but schools especially, they're executive director, they have to run a school. How are they knowing what's on the plan? How are they knowing to pay the person right? Stuff like that.
So it's a major trust factor they have in whatever vendor they're working at, whatever company they're
Correct.
working with. And you're saying, well, we don't have to just trust. You actually know this business, and you're able to represent the interests of the school.
Right. So I act as the client almost. Right. 90%
an informed client.
Informed client that making 90% of decisions and say, okay, I could go back to the client and say, listen, this is correct. So when I saw that niche, I left the developer and created this company, Consult. We have it for...
What's the name of the company?
CNSLT, which is...
CNSLT?
Which is Consult Without the Vowels.
Okay. Consult Without the Vowels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And the website is actually cnsltgrp.com, Consult Group. Right.
I'm catching how this works.
It's very interesting, just to sidetrack for a second. So Nishmas, which I did in 5 towns...
Is that a synagogue?
It's a yeshiva.
Okay.
So their campaign was called Incomplete because they were fundraising in the middle of their construction. So they used Incomplete Without the Vowels. They based it off of my company.
Saw yours, got inspiration.
And then filling in those letters would complete the project.
It's actually really creative campaign. It's like leaning into the fact they feel like, okay, we're doing a campaign during already a building process.
It was very, the person that did the video, first of all, it was a comedic video, so it was funny already. And then the letters weren't there, and every word that went on the screen was missing a letter or two.
Oh, I love it.
It became a whole, it was
brilliant.
Awesome. So they based it off of that. So we're for about 12 years now, we've been doing this and growing 1 school, 2 schools, 5 schools, 10 schools, doing that. And then shoals, mikvahs, and houses. And it's really, like I said, it's
like people's personal houses.
People's personal houses, because once again, they have jobs. They're not in the business. we sell the confidence. We sell the confidence to any client that, okay, someone is confirming that what I have here is correct.
I would also imagine not only confidence and the time that goes into it, but also you probably save them money as well. Because I would imagine to some degree, they're coming to a client with bells and whistles, and you say, you know what, there's an alternative way, or maybe this quote is unnecessary, whatever it is. So whatever investment they're making in you, I'm sure that you're also looking out because you're looking out for their best interest. It's also a financial decision. It's also a lot of financial decisions.
So we split it into two. There's the confidence, because as it comes to plays on you, is that if they can't go to a donor and say, this is what we're building because of this, and we did this research, and we hired these people correctly, and we asked administration, and we asked so on and so forth, that's the confidence. And then they could collect confidently. They could tell their administration,
we've done our work.
We've done our work, the parent body, everyone who's involved, whether they're giving money or not, but more importantly, when they're giving money. And then on the saving money side is that when you have the design fleshed out, all the way through, from low voltage, millwork, engineering, donor signage, just every last thing, then you have much less change orders. You don't have change orders along the way that, oh, I forgot this, I made a mistake on that. Why didn't a person tell me that? So you definitely save money.
You know, you mentioned something with like donor signage, because I perk up because I'm like, okay, yeah, of course. When we do a building campaign, your lead and major gift donors often will have signage that's put up, and I'm like, okay, go put signage up. And I'm like, just go do it, right?
And there's no real space.
And where does that go?
Right.
I'm not thinking in terms of like, well, you just asked someone for a 7-figure gift. They're not going to want to see something that's like, 2 feet by 2 feet sitting somewhere. They want to see something that's proper and in the right spot and done not like as an afterthought.
So there's something that we do specifically for donor signage. First of all, you have to make sure not to forget it.
Yeah.
Now there's inside and outside.
All right.
That's also.
All right.
Then also, if you're doing multiple buildings, you want to make sure the buildings talk to each other. You don't want a random sign there and then a random sign there.
You want it like a thematic, like it's
correct,
consistent.
You're right. It syncs up the buildings. The buildings talk to each other with donor signage on the outside. Inside, it could be different.
Right.
But outside, if you have a campus, you don't want a random color there, a random font there. You want to pull it all together.
Right.
So on the outside, we did for a project, Yeshiva Darchei Torah. There's a bunch of buildings there. Different facade materials. One's metal panel, one's stucco, one's brick. So how do you bring it together? So we created a black porcelain slab on each building that is your focal point and pulls away from the building. There they put their logo, the name, the donor, everything. And that translates over entrances and over buildings, so it ties the campus together.
Beautiful.
Then also you have to make sure that you have on the top of the building or by entrance, you have that gap. You can't have like crown moldings. You can't have awnings where you want to put a name.
Right.
You have to make it big enough for the name. Like
you spend all this money on molding, and they go, we got to take this out.
Take it down because the guy wants his name there.
And then you wasted money.
Correct. And then inside on the buildings is that you have what I call pimples, which is you have the fire extinguisher, you have a strobe, you have a bathroom sign, you have
You're saying things that are mandatory,
but scattered around.
Yeah, and become unsightly.
Correct.
Like a pimple on the face.
Right. So you walk into a building, right? You want that clean wall, you want that sharp wall, you want that accent wall. You don't want that you have a fire extinguisher smack in the middle where you want to put pictures, you want to put a donor's name, you want to put a collage, you want to put whatever you want to do.
Right.
So we work very hard to, and even the corridors also, not only donor signage, but signage, and also donor signage, let's say by a classroom, end of a corridor, above a library. You want to make sure that it's clean and ready to go, and also that it's a wall that's not flat.
Right.
So we do alcoves, we do curves, we do angles, we do different materials at the end of these hallways or in the lobbies. So when you're ready to go, it's there.
Have you ever? So one of the things you mentioned, which I definitely resonate with, is the idea that your professionalism and what you bring to the table brings confidence to the donors. They say like, oh, we're going to make sure that this project is run to scope that we've discussed, and not going to be any surprises, and you're going to do that, and then you make sure that the signage is all right. Do you ever interface with the donors, and is there ever I want to trust but verify, I want to talk to him, or are you dealing with boards of directors, the committees are involved in the development side, or are you typically like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain dealing with like just the executive director? Like,
I mean, you know my personality. I'm not a behind the curtain.
You're not a behind the scenes guy. Yeah.
So there's 3 categories that we interact with.
Okay.
And in the beginning, I didn't realize it, but once I started working with these people, they kind of showed me that, okay, I should actually be forthcoming and meet with them. So they're just broken down into the banks, the financing. When they have an owner's rep on board on the design side, they feel the confidence for the client that, okay, the client's not wasting money.
Right.
They're not going to have a million change orders that'll extend the time of the project. they're not going to have to renew the loan or do extensions, which means more insurance, more carrying costs, and a lot of other stuff. So therefore, they are comfortable with that, and it brings confidence that, okay, we'll give the loan.
Right.
There's a guy reviewing the recs, there's a guy requisitions for money, and all that stuff. So that's the bank. The next category is politicians. So when you're in New York City, it's less politicians. All the smaller municipalities all over the country, politicians are very important. They help get your project through at various stages, right? If you need variances, if it's on a certain block, if you want to height, all different things that you want to do. So the politicians, I know a lot of them now because when you get them on board, they want to come to events. So it's very important to coordinate and really have them involved.
And you also probably know what are the things that are important to them, right? It's not
Correct.
just about saying, just vomiting up all the things you want. You know what their priorities are.
It's votes.
Right, votes. Right, exactly. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to one singular thing.
No, but they want to give back. Some of them are really true.
Right.
They want to give back even though.
The cynical,
right.
There's a cynical view of saying that it's about the votes.
Correct.
But they just some people do have a higher calling of saying,
correct. Some of them happen to be really nice people, and they really want to help out. So when they have an owner's rep on board or someone that knows design and knows the project cold, like a client might not know parts of a project when they're speaking to the bank. So, and I'll explain another thing that I do in a second, but that is the politicians, and then you have the whole client base and the donors. So we have met with donors and presented to them, the really high level donors.
Yeah, they're usually like people who are in leadership roles, like the lay leadership counterparts of the professional staff.
But let me ask you a question. Your level of donors, right?
Yeah.
So your time that you spend with donors, how high does that go? Meaning, I assume you present to donors also.
Yeah.
So would you go to a donor that's only $1 million and higher, $2 million, $5 million and higher? Where's your level? I'm curious because as it compares to me, of ROI on time for the client.
Sure.
They could go to a $100,000 client and sell them easily, but they want the 5, 10, 25 million. So where's your threshold that they call you in?
The general approach is that like the economic principle that 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people.
Right.
So we are looking at people who are either having the biggest pockets, the ones who are carrying the campaign financially, or having the largest influence. So it could be a combination of donor. It could be a federation CEO or exec that has a lot of reputation in the larger Jewish community. It could be certain key synagogue rabbis that need to be bought in. If we're talking about schools, definitely that's the case. But in the end of the day, it's like, who are the ones that are going to help really grease the project to make sure that everything moves smoothly? And we, of course, turn to the client and say, okay, yes, the money is the obvious one, right? Like if you need to raise $30 million, if you have 20, 25 donors who can get you to 25 out of the $30 million, we need those people to be on board.
Got it.
So we're dealing with them. And then, of course, the one, like I said, the influential people that are not necessarily financially relied upon, but will maybe door openers for money. If you have someone who's a head of a foundation or a community foundation where they have all these donor advised funds, so that they have access to these people. So it's just a matter of making sure that the adage that we care about, and I'm sure this applies to you too, is people support what they help to create. So if you involve them in the process in some way, now they're a stakeholder, all right? And you're not someone who's like feeling like they're only getting the same report that everyone else gets. Anyone you involve means that they're going to be more inclined to. You run the risk of them having an opinion, right?
Right, of course.
Yeah, they all have something to say, but it means that they are more saying like, this is my baby, this is my project, and that's invaluable.
So, the question that comes to mind is chicken egg over here.
Okay.
Between us, right? So there are a few things that we prepare through a project. The first and most important thing we call programmatic design. So that's jargon for people.
Yeah, what is that?
So what does that mean? That means we go through everything you need for the school. What you have, which a lot of schools don't know what they have 100%, meaning how many employees, when they're coming, who else is coming to the school, maintenance, kitchen, security, parents, events. We go through everything. And we speak to everyone. We sit down with the kitchen, the cook, the maintenance guy, the security guy. We sit down with board members, presidents, executive directors, a few teachers, Rebbeim, English, a lot of it. It takes time.
Yeah, interviews take time.
Right. So it comes out, the last one we did was 25 pages, spreadsheets of all the employees, spreadsheets of all the rooms that they require. We do all that. And that sort of gives a very, very good picture. There's a few versions, because once they see it on paper, they're like, wow,
right,
we have that, or we want that, or we're missing that. So it goes through a few
It makes
versions.
sense.
Of it.
It starts with how it's going to be functionally used.
Correct.
Right.
And that translates into square footage. That translates into who you have to hire. And then you start talking money, the design team,
Right.
whether you need variances, whether, time, what do you have to buy land, who you have to involve politicians-wise.
Right.
So it's interesting that if I would do that before you sit down with them with how much money they could collect or fundraise or finance or
Right.
have in the bank, or is it after?
Because you're going to give them recommendations based on the natural constraints of what they have at there's resources. So
Correct.
If they say, oh, we can have $15 million all said and done, then okay, that's what you're going to operate within.
Or I could say, yes, you can do it, you can't.
Or you can't do it.
Sorry, you got to slice off a floor.
Right.
So
right.
that does, and the real tripping hazard is that if you don't do that, and you design too much, right? The architect's finished, or a good portion you filed for a variance,
Yep.
and you have all this done, and then you feel, or you, whether through you or through parents or whatever, is that they can't collect it, then you got to redo all that design. You got to take 10 steps back.
Yep.
It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you time.
Yep.
You're going to bust the bubble of morale
Yep.
and motivation.
Yep.
And now,
It's like a bait and switch. You promised us this, and you gave us that.
Correct. And it's also depends on how much they want. Like, do they want that fancy gym, or do they just want a gym?
Right.
Do they want to do 3 shifts of lunch, or do they want to do 1, or are they okay with 3 shifts, right? Because then it's bigger. Are they okay with a warming kitchen, or do they want a cooking kitchen, right? Which is huge difference
Huge
in money.
differences, yeah.
So it's interesting over here, like which, you first, me first.
Right. So we're because that's a very good question, because it'd be wonderful if you could know what that number is based on the interviews, and we know that donors can give X. They're going to have some kind of target to work with. The reason why they need a number is because when you go to donors, part of the materials that you're sharing with them, the case for support says, this is what we want to be able to raise, and the feedback we ask them during the interviews is this something that you think is achievable? Like, do you think that, because a lot of these people are highly influential in the community, they've been involved in other projects.
Correct.
They know if they're a major donor, they know the other major donors, so they can look at a number and say, oh, I don't know how you're doing that. Or like, yeah, you know what? Like, it gives them a perspective. Like, okay, well, if it's $20 million and the $15 million is going to come from me and like 18 or 19 other people, then I'm going to probably have to pony up X. And okay, so then they start doing the math and calculations. Right. So that's really important for us to be able to give some kind of number, right? So the number's got to come from somewhere, and we'd love it to come from after you've done the work.
A little realistic.
A little realistic. So there needs to be some kind of, and we don't need that to be the final number. We can definitely tell them, like, because when we ask them what the full dream is, they'll say, okay, this, and they'll say, okay, like, is there a plan B? Not as like, if we don't succeed, then that, but if we do this first process of interviewing the donors and we see it, then it's not like a bait and switch like you were describing.
Right.
Your plan B becomes your plan A, right?
Got it.
And so I think we would need to figure out how that works out, because I'm not even sure, because I know we both kind of want all the information.
It could be in tandem that you start the discussions, and then you get like a little bit of a handle, and then we start and we get a little bit of handle, and then you tweak, we tweak, you tweak,
Right.
in a way. But there's something that comes up, that what you're saying about donors is that renderings.
Yeah.
Right, that's a big one. So I get asked for renderings sometimes before we even sit down.
Right.
Like, just give me a rendering of
Yeah,
something.
because they want it for the marketing purposes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting down with a rendering that could be not real at all.
Correct.
Or
that's a disaster. You show them a beautiful rendering, and then they're like, "It's not what we were talking about."
Right, and I've heard stories. There's few levels of renderings, right? So I've heard that if you go to a donor, and it's a really fancy rendering, like gorgeous,
Right.
and you sit down with them, and they're like, "You can't afford this. What are you showing me?"
Right.
Right?
There's a cognitive dissonance. Like,
Right,
you're showing me
exactly.
the Taj Mahal. Like, this is not how
Right. Or it's a disconnect to what the mission statement is of the school, like it's gaudy or out there.
Right. If you
And-
got lines on your front lawn with pillars,
Exactly.
you're like, this is a yeshiva.
Right, you have like these chandeliers that are coming down, and the donors get turned off. That's the second reason why a donor could get turned off. One is because, what are you showing me? It's so expensive. You're never going to be afford it.
Right.
You want me to pay for that
Right.
craziness?
Right.
Or the gaudiness of it, that it's too fancy. What are you doing here?
Right.
It's just a boys' school.
Right.
Let's focus on the education. They need a place that's nice, and it's coveted when they come in, and they want to come every day. But it doesn't have to be, like you said, the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
Right?
I think most of the time when they want renderings, most of the time, from at least from where I sit, is they want to be able to show a donor. It's almost like a, which one do you want to buy? Like, you know,
Right, because people are not visual also.
right.
There are some people that just
And then
cannot
also,
visualize.
and what happens is, like, you know, like, if you, like, when you go to IKEA and you see everything's furnished and that, and you see prices on those things,
Right.
you're like, oh, I can get the Ergen Blurgen for, you know, at $300, right?
Right, right.
Like, you see it in its place. So if you show someone the renderings, everything in its place, and it looks nice, you go, oh, I could imagine my name on that building. Like,
Right,
that'd be
right.
pretty nice. So that's really why they want it. They want it for a functional reason to bring it to the donors. But if they're bringing it to the donors, they should have already been all through this process, because we don't like them to do a real solicitation until we've involved them in what we do is a feasibility study in the
Okay.
business, which is what we call a pre-campaign experience. But feasibility study sounds a little academic, and it's really not. It's meant to be a very experiential thing for the donors to feel like they are involved in the process. And so basically what happens is our third-party firm interviews their top 25 donors.
Okay.
We share with them the case for support, a draft of it, and we say, this is, you know, we first ask them about their previous experience with the school, you know, what it looks like currently, and then we move into the case statement and say, you know, we send this to them about a week in advance, review it, and we talk to them and say, you know, what do you think? We ask them big picture details,
Right.
and they start talking about, they're like, oh, this looks really exciting. Get them to salivate over the project. Like, this would, if you could have this would be amazing. And
Right.
then the last question is this something that you would consider supporting? And we ask them, do you see yourself giving it a 7-figure gift level? And if they say yes, we'll ask them for a range. And if they say no, we say, do you see yourself giving it a 6-figure gift level? And about 50% of the people in the interview will actually give a price point, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about it is it's a dry run. It's not the actual solicitation.
Right.
So
you're always hoping for more, obviously.
Right, right. Of course, yeah, you're going to obviously try to go for a stretch beyond that. But what happens is for your client, that means they can come away and say, with our top 25 donors, who can get us 80% of the way there, we actually have a pretty good idea of how they see themselves. Even if they didn't give us a number, we know if they're feeling good,
Right.
and they want to participate. They'll say, I want to participate in the project, but I need to talk to my wife. I can't have this conversation
Right,
without
right,
her,
right.
and therefore, you know, I'm not going to give you a number. But we can know if the wheels are greased or if this was a good exercise, so we can come back and they can say, yeah, we could do $15 million or $20 million, or, you know, this will be the stretch. And so we do give them that idea, but until we have those interviews, right, we can't. But those interviews, there's no place where we're showing them dedication opportunities to say,
So that
which one do you want?
that was my next question in a way, because in the renderings, if you do a rendering and you put a guy's name there, right? Sometimes in a video they do that, you know, walk through, and like as you turn a corner, there's a gym and the guy's name's on it in the video already.
Don't you find that really presumptuous? I hate that.
So
I would be very annoyed if someone did that.
Some
to me.
people would be flattered. Some people are like, "Are you crazy?"
I don't understand the flattery approach. Like, why someone would be flattered?
Because their names on in lights.
Yeah,
Some people
but
are name and lights
isn't it
covered.
presumptuous? Like, even if you are someone who loves to have your name in your face,
Of course,
and
it's
like that,
presumptuous.
It's super presumptuous.
Of course it is.
I don't know. I don't understand. When a client says, like, we're thinking of putting their name on it, I'll ask them to, like, really go into, like, tell me, like, the dynamic you have with this donor.
So there's a second part to that, which is that if they see someone else's name, and they're like, "Ooh, that guy gave already," or "That guy wants
That's
then,
invaluable.
you know, I want to be higher up.
Right.
Right,
Either higher
that's-
up, or also it gives them a sense like, oh, this is where donors are coming in at.
And it's a family of donors. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh, he's giving. I want to be part of that.
Well,
that,
one of the things
you
that we tell our client is that it's very important to get your lead gift or gifts right, because that becomes the ceiling. If you
Correct.
have someone who's perceived in the community as your biggest donor, and they come in, let's say, at $2 million, no gifts coming above $2 million.
Got it.
Right? That becomes your ceiling, and everything else comes underneath that.
Right.
So if you go to someone and say that person and say, hey, you're going to set the tone for this campaign. If you come in at $5 million, I might be able to get 3 and 2
There's
million.
no one that comes in and says, you know, he did 5. I'll do 5-1, like Price is Right, or
Yeah, no, I don't know about that. Because also, again, what I'm talking about is you're really going to the couple people who are like either like
Right.
founding donors, people who are like the ones who
Right,
really
right.
care, and you're saying to them like, please stretch, because your gift becomes this. Because no one's gonna go like, oh, if they're doing that, I'm not gonna go above that. Even
Right.
socially, imagine if someone is like viewed in the community as like the donor of the school. If that person says, you know, $2 million, and then someone who else might have the capacity to go like, oh, I'm not gonna go
Right.
over them, like out of derech eretz, out of being like, I'm not gonna, this is the donor. So I think that you have to be you have to be strategic. Go to those lead donors and say, go as big as you can, because everyone else is going to come underneath you.
Right.
So there's almost a responsibility that donor has to feel on their shoulder, like, oh, I can shortchange the school if I don't give high enough, and then everyone else will
I've
come
never
underneath
thought of it that way. It's
Yeah.
interesting. With renderings, back to renderings for a second.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because I've heard that sometimes it happens. If a school gives a rendering and the person says, I'll donate this, but then the building changes. The design changes for whatever reason. Restrictions on zoning, restrictions on cost,
Yeah.
or just aesthetics, you know. and they don't go back to him.
It just shows up as like
It either shows up in an ad in a paper or whatever, that they pull their funding because they wanted what was shown to them and not something else.
Never happened to me, but
Okay.
it wouldn't surprise me if those type of things happen. I know that a lot of crazy things happen, but have you experienced this in the work that you've done?
I haven't experienced because I don't deal with the donors consistently. I deal with the donors
I
every
would
so
imagine
often, but I'm
most-
curious if you had someone that pulled back because of it.
Yeah, I would imagine that most executive directors or heads of schools or who are involved in this type of process have enough emotional intelligence to know
To go
that
back.
to say, well, what we sold them, we had to make changes to it. We probably should go back to them and have that conversation so that they understand where we are. But that's something that I would imagine doesn't happen in a vacuum where like they get surprised, they show up, they pull into the driveway and they look up and they go, what the heck? I don't think that's really going to be the case.
I have another question for you that came up.
Okay.
Is that, let's say you're doing signage on a building inside.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever done where the signage is on a screen, that it's not a permanent sign, like let's say a classroom,
Yeah.
or let's say any
Like
room,
a digital screen with the donor information's on it.
but the
Is it scrolling around?
but the donor is only for it has term limits.
the gift of the cat.
Correct.
The naming.
Let's say a
mechanism?
classroom, right? Let's say someone puts up a screen, so you're the donor for this month, and then it switches to another person for the next month, and so on and so forth.
If it's done from the beginning, if that's how it's set up to be,
Right.
and the gift size is commensurate with something that cycles off. Like when people do like Parnes Hayom campaigns where you can
It's
dedicate
same-
a day
you're
of
right,
learning,
right.
it's the same concept. So you might say, okay, well, Parnes Hayom might be $180 for a day of learning. So if you're dedicating a classroom for a month and you're going to cycle off, so what maybe like $5,000 to $2,500, $1,000.
Saying, do you think in the long term that's beneficial for client versus just doing the permanent and be done?
What I'm wondering is if you're raising enough. First of all, what it requires is a consistent focus on raising money for those.
But it's consistent income versus
right. That's what I'm saying. But it
know.
requires you're giving the benefit of the doubt that the organization is going to treat that as like focus on going to secure donors on a monthly basis for that thing in perpetuity.
Correct.
Right.
It's a risk.
It is, and from my experience, a lot of times consistency is a problem.
Because there's burnout.
Yeah, the burnout. Yeah, they're just like they get lazy. They don't do
Right.
it. The other things come
Oh,
up.
I meant burnout on the donor. You're saying on
Yeah,
the
but
school.
I'm saying burnout in the school. I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily trusting the school professionals to be reliably getting those donors every month.
Interesting. It didn't happen in one school because they felt the kids would just break all the tablets.
Right. Oh, yeah, well, there's that.
Right,
But alternatively, also, what you keep in mind is that when you have a big, like a permanent recognition of the classroom,
Right.
the number's large, and it helps with the, like when they don't want to go for bank financing or anything like that. That's a pledge on paper.
Right.
Right. And the perpetuity thing might be nice for the organization to have some cash flow, but it doesn't help if they need to show a certain number of pledges up
And
front.
also if they need the money
Then
now
you need the cash. Right.
to actually build.
Right, the cash flow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what you're looking at. So I've never seen that. With it's an interesting idea, but most of the clients that I've dealt with didn't have the luxury of doing the long-term strategy. They just need as much cash.
just need
up
much
front.
cash.
Yeah, much cash. All right,
Interesting.
this was really, really helpful, really interesting.
Okay, awesome.
Yossi, I really appreciate it.
Can I end with one more question?
Yeah, please.
Because let's say you're demolishing a building.
Okay.
Okay, it has a donor on it.
Right. Oh, what do you do with all the dedications from the old building? Oh, that's a classic question. It's a good question. When you have dedications,
Meaning, is there term limits to a donor?
so there should always be, when you do pledges for a capital campaign, you should say it's for 30 years or 40 years or 50 years, whatever. There should be a number on there.
Okay.
But invariably, there are old building campaigns that happened 40, 50 years ago, and you're like, what do we do? They dedicated the base medrash, they dedicated the kitchen, classrooms. Like, what do we do with these people? There is a method. You can go back to the family if they're alive.
Okay.
It's easier if everyone's dead.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
It's easier if everyone's gone and you
Right,
can just go
right.
like do a whoop. We made a switch.
Right.
But if there are people, if the kids are alive, if any of the living donors are alive, what you do is you approach them and say, hey, we're about to embark on a new campaign, and this is going to be really beneficial for the long term. You make it about the mission of the school, about the growth of the school, right? We all want the same thing. We want
Right.
to see a successful school, and say, we know that you have this dedication for the last 30 years, 40 years, whatever it is. Would it be okay? Would you give us permission to free up that spot, right? The dedication of Beit Midrash, because we're going to have a new one.
Right.
And we will we'll move your thing to the lobby, with a big bunch of plaques that say, the founding base medrash or founding this, and you'll have all those dedications on one big, beautiful menorah board, whatever it is, and it'll be given to all the
for everyone that donated.
For everyone who donated from
the larger ones,
right?
obviously.
So you'll migrate them onto a board. And that will be something you put in place, and it'll free up all these other opportunities. I've had instances where someone said, "Nope, too bad, so sad. I want to maintain this. This is it forever."
And then you got to put it up again.
And then you have to put up the original dedication again because you have to stand by it.
I was curious if you had experience.
But that's there is an approach that you can do it, it's a little nerve wracking
because it affects design when we're doing lobbies and you just have a million names everywhere. It gets out of hand. You can't see the walls.
Yes, correct. You don't want it to look like one of those like old school synagogues with like a bunch of little plaques, little lights in there.
There's some donors that you only can put my name and no one else, and there's other people that they like say mezuzahs and doors. They collect all the names and put it in one place versus on every door. Right. So we go through that when we do signage. We go through that each school how they want to do it differently.
Really great. Yeah. All right. So Yossi, if people want to find you, what's the website you mentioned?
Website's CNSLTGRP.com.
Very nice.
Emails yfischler@CNSLTGRP.com.
And don't call him when you're already like halfway this way. Please call him
early as possible.
Early as possible. I have the same feeling. If you want to do a building campaign, reach out to us early, engage us early. It's it's much harder in the 11th hour.
You have so much more time when you're early.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're chasing your tail.
Yes, indeed.
Okay,
all right.
awesome. Thank you so much.
For your time. Appreciate
it.